This is Emmy-nominated rapper, actor, slash the greatest of all times. Ha! T.O.N.E. and you checking out Dispatch Radio.
All right, folks, you may know her from the hit show. It's the HBO show called True Blood. Now, it's a very exciting time. We're headed into the 7th and final season, and Carrie plays Arlene Fowler. So Carrie Preston joins our show. How are you, Carrie?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
It's great, and I know it's very exciting to, and sad at the same time to see the show wrap up, but tell us a little bit about where we left your character off at the end of season 6.
Well, at the very end, there was a surprising 1-year jump in time, and where we find that Arlene has used some of the life insurance money that she got from the sad passing of her husband, Terry, to buy the bar. So she owns the bar now. It's called Belfleurs, and she hosts a big event to help pair humans and vampires together to protect themselves against this horrible band of hip V vampires that are coming to take over the world, basically. And the last thing we see is this band of these horrible vampires right outside of this huge party at the bar, and we're going to pick up right where we left off there for season 7. So
Arlene's going to be right in the
big, scary stuff.
She's going to be right in the center of the action in the first episode back at season 1.
At the end of season 6, we're picking up right where we left off.
Wow, it's going to be an exciting premiere back, and the spoilers are probably a little hard to divulge, but what can you tell us a little bit about Arlene in season 7? Is there a lot of change in her personality? She's already gone through so much and such a different character than, let's say, season 1, season 2 even, really. But what is there any real more transformation in season 7 as we start to kind of wrap things up that you can tell us about?
Definitely. I mean, one thing we've seen through the years of True Blood is, an evolution of Arlene going from a pretty narrow-minded person who hasn't really seen a lot of horrors in the world to someone who's lived through a lot and has become a little more tolerant of things that are maybe different or scary for her. So she's going to come face to face with that again, and it's going to be a really interesting season because and I'm not giving any spoilers because somebody already spoiled it on the internet, but she will be there's a vampire who's infatuated with Arlene. So it'll be interesting to see how she deals with that.
I mean, yeah, let's face it, she was a very bigoted character back in the very beginning of the show, and obviously a lot has transpired, and she's just not the same woman as she was in the beginning, and it seems like it's a very interesting subplot to this incredible True Blood universe to see how her character will kind of wrap up at series end.
Yes, I know. I'm curious myself. We're only halfway through the season, and we all wait with bated breath to see each of the scripts because we're all curious how this is all going to wrap up. And the writers they like to include us, but at the same time, they're figuring it out too. And I don't even think all the final scripts are written yet. So we're just as curious as the audience to see where the show ends up.
Every show handles that a little bit differently. How does that really work? Do you get much insight to it before your first table read, or is that kind of like I always call it the Christmas morning where you sit down and you're like, oh, look at what I have, and then just kind of like you're discovering it at a table at a table. Because some shows are kind of like that, and it's kind of fascinating that you would drop that on an actor at that point, but in reality, that's kind of what you get sometimes.
Yeah, it's true. It is different for each show, and because our show, almost the entire thing is in the can before it starts airing, we do get a little more information than, say, a network show that's airing and shooting at the same time. So we probably got, I think we got the first 2 scripts this year before we did the table read. So we had a general idea of what was happening in those scripts. Now they go through many renovations and, revisions and whatnot before we start shooting. So, but the general plot line is pretty much, we know what that is. And, the writers, they do, I mean, our showrunner, he does like to give us an idea because it affects on, it affects how you play things, if you have a little bit more of a sense what the long arc is of the show. But like I said, we don't really know where it's going to end up.
Obviously 6 seasons are behind you. I mean, it's just been such an incredible run, and got to be career changing. One of those things it's the legacy of this show is not going away anytime soon. And I always joke with some of you folks. I mean, we may see you on a Comic-Con sci-fi tour soon because there's such a demand to meet and greet you guys because it's such a huge following. And what has changed you the most? What has been like the biggest thing? I mean, do people even point you out in restaurants and stuff? I mean, does it kind of take away a little bit from Carrie Preston's life now? Oh man, True Blood's in my life more than I ever realized.
Yeah. Yes, but it's kind of lovely too. I mean, you do this work and you want people to receive it and enjoy it and want to keep coming back to it. I mean, we create these, we put a lot of heart and soul into these TV shows or movies or plays, and we're doing it for the audience, ultimately. I mean, we derive a lot of pleasure from it, but, ultimately it's for the audience. And so to get that kind of feedback out in the world is, it's really affirming. And it was funny. It was funny for me because the first 3 seasons of True Blood, I was wearing a wig. So when I was out in the world, people rarely recognized me from the show. And then we had an opportunity in the show where there was a big time jump, and I was like, okay, great, I want to get rid of the wig because I originally had to wear it because I was playing another part as a blonde at the same time we shot the pilot. So I had to wear a wig, and then I just got stuck with it. And so I finally was like, okay, great, I'm going to dye my hair red. As soon as I did that, I realized, this is what my castmates have been doing.
Yeah, everywhere you go, there's Carrie Preston.
Yes. Oh, it's Arlene. People always they love to call you by your character name. And,
that's true. That's right.
But
that's true.
Yeah.
What has it been like, or what's the big takeaway from this cast? I mean, this is an incredible cast. You came in with an incredible cast, but I mean, even then, so many of your co-stars have really blossomed and grown during this show. I mean, not that Alexander Skarsgård was a nobody, but let's face it, he can barely go anywhere now without just everybody's talking about this guy. So, what's been like some of the cool takeaways from working with this cast?
Well, the thing that's great about our cast is, first of all, there's not a bad apple. I mean, everybody in there is, a really extraordinary, singular, creative, talented person. So the alchemy between all of us is really special. And at the same time, we kind of all feel like we're on separate TV shows because there's so many storylines. And so, I feel like I've been on a show about a bar, while everybody else has been on some vampire show, And so I like to when we all get together to do the table read is really the only time that we're all together as a group. And it's a really wonderful feeling in there. And also, it has not gone to people's heads, people's success. They continue to show up, be present, do the work, be committed, and nobody even really talks about the other projects that they're have been up to or whatever. We're just there to create this TV show. So, I haven't seen any egos take over, and that's really refreshing because I do believe that happens sometimes. And people are, they let it go to their head and they forget the task at hand, and that hasn't happened at all with the show.
Folks are talking to Carrie Preston mostly about True Blood at this point, and I will say, because off the record, we have had some stories that have come that we don't throw out for the public to know, because there are some bad apples in the industry and some interesting stories that come that way. So it is a really cool aspect.
Sure.
You know, we hear the same kind of stuff though on most of the HBO projects. This is kind of the consensus of how HBO runs its business, isn't it? I mean, they get folks together that just for the passion and the love of it generate stuff people want to watch, and you get beyond the scope of individual stuff. 'Cause, I mean, when you have, let's take True Detective for instance, when you have two A-list Hollywood stars who are willing to go on a HBO TV series, that's kind of groundbreaking stuff and says a lot about the network, right?
It does, and it also says a lot about television and how powerful TV has become. And I would even say that it's eclipsing feature films. I mean, the feature films that are being made are super big mall movies, with superheroes for the most part. And I think audiences are now trained to look to TV for the more intimate stories, for the more interesting character-driven stories. And I mean, people have been throwing out this phrase of we're in the golden age of TV, and I have to say that I agree with them. I myself, as a viewer, I prefer television these days, and I follow all of the HBO shows and the network shows too. And so I think it's an exciting time for television, and HBO is kind of leading the pack, and they really do set themselves apart a little bit in the kinds of projects they're allowed to do. They don't have to answer to advertisers. They're allowed to take risks, and that's why actors, I think, are really drawn to that material. And so they go through quite a vetting process in the casting, and we all consider ourselves pretty dang lucky that we were selected to be on this very popular show.
Well, it's hardly the only show that you're on that's been a success. You've had great runs on shows like The Following and Person of Interest and The Good Wife, and I really want to get to that one because you had an Emmy nod that went your way on that. And what was it when you got that? Did you just get a little read on that and went, oh my gosh, I've got to get this part? Or is it actually once you got into it, you realized just how juicy this was going to be?
Well, let me tell you, it was a real gift because I didn't audition for it, and I've been around. I've had to work.
There's been a couple shows. You've been on a couple shows. I don't want to make it sound like you were old, so I don't want to harp on that. That's how it always sounds. If I do it at my end, Carrie, it makes it sound like so if you do it, it's okay. But if I do it, okay.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying I'm old. I'm just saying that I haven't had the benefit. I didn't have the benefit of hitting it big the minute I hit the scene. I mean, I went to school. I studied for 8 years. I went to undergrad, then I went to grad, and I really put my time in, and I started off doing theater, and then worked my way slowly up to film and then TV, and so it's been a wonderful career. But there are times when you really have to be out in the trenches auditioning, and then other times when you just get the gift of an offer, and that is what happened with The Good Wife. And I was really humbled and excited that they wrote this role and thought, okay, this is the girl for it. Because when they sent it to me, I read it and I thought, oh wow, this is something special. I have been given something that I really need to rise to, because on the page I know it's something extraordinary, and I know that I know that I'm going to be able to do my best to elevate it and to realize it. And so when I came to that first day, I was raring to go, and it was awesome. I mean, I came on in their first season. They brought me on for 2 episodes. And I had a ball. I was having a great time with the character, and then I was busy with True Blood, so they didn't come back to me in the second season, and I thought, okay, well, that was great. I had a great time. I did those 2 episodes, awesome. And then in the third season, they were like, we've got this, arc for you, and it was that was when it really felt like it gelled for me. You know, going back to that character, like really getting into it. The writers were really, you know, playing to my strengths, and it, you know, turned into another fourth season, and then I got nominated for an Emmy, and you know, damn, they didn't give it to me. So I was like, it was an exciting moment in my career for sure. One of the highlights.
Definitely a highlight that's not going to be forgotten anytime soon. It is a great arc, and it's just fantastic. It's not to take away from your other work. I'm just saying that arc I had to bring some attention and highlight to. And before I let you go, let's plug your film here. I know we don't have an exact release date. I don't have an exact release date on Life itself, and you know, it's based on the book, the Heroic Measures book, and what a cast! I mean, you are on a roll. We start to run down the TV. We also got this movie where you get to play with Morgan Freeman and Diane Keaton, and what can you say about this movie?
That was so great. Well, you know, it was an offer, and they brought it to me, and it was just a couple of days on it, and there was a conflict with my schedule, and I, you know, said to my agents, like, we have to work this out because I've got to meet those guys. I mean, I just have to meet those guys. Diane Keaton is a huge hero of mine as far as all of her work, you know, starting with Annie Hall, of course, and moving on up, and you know, Morgan Freeman, I mean, I feel like he's part of the fabric of American movies, you know. So I really, really wanted to be, you know, on a set with those two, you know, towering talents. And so when I got on set, they couldn't have been lovelier, you know. And we were shooting in New York City, which is where I live, and you know, it was just a lovely couple of days. And one of my favorite moments was we're shooting in this building on the Upper West Side, and we all got on this elevator to go down to the street level to go have our lunch or whatever. And I was on the elevator with Morgan and Diane and Cynthia Nixon and, you know, several of the other cast members, and we got off the elevator, and Morgan was ahead of us. He walked past the doorman, and the doorman turned to me and Diane Keaton and Cynthia Nixon and said, "Is that guy an actor?" Yeah, I mean, he's asking Diane Keaton.
Asking Diane Keaton, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How can you not?
And Diane Keaton was like, "Yeah, you should go get his autograph," she said to him.
Well, you know, it's funny because, you know, the famous thing that broke, a month ago was someone misidentified Samuel L. Jackson and Lawrence Fishburne, mixed them up. So I guess we didn't at least have Morgan mixed up with somebody else. At least he just I'm not sure if he's an actor, but I kind of know who he is. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah,
that's
I think
great.
That's the way everybody feels. Everybody feels like they know him. You know, he's
like, on everything.
He's on everything.
He is. It's
voice,
like if yeah, everybody knows his voice. I mean, even our kids. It's like it's transcended to another generation. I mean, it's one thing where you and I would know this guy. We grew up with Morgan Freeman. He's been around this whole time. Now,
sure,
because he's transcended into the next generation, he and Samuel L. Jackson, we've grown up with them, and now the next generation knows them. And here you are, True Blood. Now you're on this movie that's coming out soon. So I won't keep you any longer. I do appreciate your time. Hopefully we can catch up right before the premiere, or maybe a few episodes in, and catch up with what we've learned about Arlene and the trials and tribulations around the bar and what's ahead, because it's definitely going to be an exciting start to the season from the sounds of things.
Well, thanks for having me, and I'd be happy to come back and talk about it with you again.
Awesome, Carrie. God bless you, and take care, and good luck.
Thank you.